But first, let's turn to what is a big day. The 6th anniversary of the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai. A headlines today investigation now shows that the Indian Coast Guard is still not fully prepared if an attack took place today. Let's look at an exclusive report filed by our correspondent Manjeet Negi.
Has India forgotten how Ajmal Amir Kasab and 9 other Lashkar terrorists entered India exactly 6 years ago? Does India's security establishment remember the systemic failure that allowed 10 terrorists hold this country ransom for 3 days? 6 years since they hijacked a fishing trawler to penetrate India's defences, frighteningly little has changed. Because while the Navy and Coast Guard have built up muscle, the threat of unknown fishing boats drifts on. Headlines today's Manjeet Negi joined the Indian Coast Guard for a live coastal surveillance operation between Goa and Mumbai to test preparedness and action protocols in the event of a suspicious fishing boat. It did not take long. This fishing boat, 20 kilometers from the Goa coast, hasn't followed standard protocols and needs to be investigated. With a team of commandos, the Coast Guard approaches the fishing boat. After many tense minutes, when no chances can be taken, the fishermen on this boat manage to establish their innocence. But this is only one of over 1 lakh boats which still don't have proper biometric identity cards, something India had decided was going to be compulsory after 26/11. Progress has been dangerously slow.
फिशिंग बोट को पूरा चेक करते हैं, क्या-क्या आइटम उनके पास है, क्या-क्या सामान वो लेके आए हैं, कितना पानी है, कितना डीजल है, कितने दिन से, ये सारे सवाल उनसे पूछे जाते हैं और चेक भी किए जाते हैं कितना पानी है या डीजल है, खाना क्या-क्या खा रहे हैं वो।
Along India's 7,500 kilometer long coastline, the Coast Guard protects the zone 24 to 200 kilometers from shore. The fact that fishing boats still operate outside mandatory protocol is reason for major concern.
कोस्ट गार्ड के प्रोजेक्शन में कहीं सरकारों ने, स्पेशली मैं गोवा सरकार की बात बताऊंगा, इन्होंने ऐसी मुहिम उठाई है कि सबके सबको बायोमेट्रिक कार्ड्स इशू कर दी जाए ताकि पहचान हमारे रडार पे इजीली हो जाए.
But plenty has changed too. A lot has changed to muscle up against maritime terror threats, but not quite enough. Apart from constant patrolling, better domain awareness technology and new organizations to coordinate intelligence, the Indian security agencies are still woefully under-equipped to keep constant tabs on such a large domain. It's a question we should not have to ask 6 years after the deadly attack on Mumbai. But are we still vulnerable? With Manjeet Negi, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Now, exactly 6 years ago, 10 terrorists from Pakistan, including Ajmal Kasab, landed in Mumbai's Badwar Park, unleashed never before seen terror scenes in the city. Amrita Shedge retraced their steps to find out how prepared is the city, particularly railway stations and other key places in the city, if there was to be, God forbid, another terror attack attempt.
This is Mumbai's Badwar Park, the same place where Ajmal Amir Kasab along with 9 other Lashkar terrorists touched down this day 6 years ago. But the subsequent talk of security appears to have remained just that. Even civic workers who come here every single day complain that this total lack of security is not a one-off phenomena.
पुलिस आएगी दे चौकी,
लेकिन यहाँ पे कोई नहीं है.
यहाँ पे कोई नहीं था वो टाइम में.
कोई निकल गया तो पता नहीं
चलेगा.
Mumbai's Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus, perhaps the city's busiest junction. Lakhs of people pass by the station every single day, which made it a prime terror target for gun-toting terrorists 6 years ago. And while one would expect the security apparatus to have been upgraded drastically, what one sees is alarming.
Railway stations have always been a target of terror attacks in Mumbai. Now I'm going to CST railway station. We will see what kind of security CST has after 6 years of 26/11 terror attack. Let's go.
Our reporter is able to walk in unchecked with a bag, even leave it under a bench, with no one to notice, no one to intercept.
And now I'm coming outside CST station. I've kept my bag inside that table where I was sitting. There were many people still sitting there, but I've kept my bag there, and now I'm outside CST station. There was nobody to ask me, nobody to check my bag. Even I left my bag that side. Nobody was there to tell me that I have kept my bag inside that table. So that shows after 6 years what kind of security CST has. There was the metal detectors are not working. There was not even a single policeman asking me that I have kept my bag inside, or nobody checked me also.
The financial capital of the country, Mumbai has always been on the terror radar, but serious question marks remain over just how safe the city is to deal with another assault. With Amrita Shedge in Mumbai, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Question then here on Headlines Today at the very top of the news today at 9. 6 years post 26/11. No lessons learned. Have we learned those lessons? Those two stories showing coastal security, railway security, simply at some places non-existent. Let's raise our panel. Joining me now, Himanshu Roy, special guest, the head of the anti-terrorism squad now in Mumbai. He joins me, IPS officer from the Maharashtra cadre. Also with me, Praveen Swami of the Indian Express, who's been doing a series on how coastal security in particular is lacking at several points along the coastline. And I'm also joined by Mr. Mansukhani. He is someone, Bhishma Mansukhani. He's a victim and survivor of the 26/11 terror attack. Appreciate your joining us at the moment. But I want to come to you first, Himanshu Roy, to raise that big question. Cross your heart and tell me, Himanshu Roy, do you believe that Mumbai is better prepared today than ever before to face a 26/11-like terror attack?
Good evening, Rajdeep. I'll get straight to the point. Yes, I have no hesitation in saying that we are much better prepared than we were 6 years ago. There is no gainsaying the fact that there were lots of lessons to be learned then, but we have learned them. We have upgraded ourselves in terms of technology, skill, training, and so on and so forth. Have we completed the gap completely? May not be. There is still something we need to do, something we need to invent, reinvent, and we are working on that. But I can assure you that we are much, much better off than we were 6 years ago.
You're saying you're much, much better off. If you saw our story, I'm just looking for a moment at VT station, where the terrorists came from. They found it that there were no metal detectors. Amrita Shedge, our correspondent who did that story, found she wasn't even being checked. So tomorrow, God forbid, Himanshu Roy, if Victoria Terminus Station or Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus as it's now called is targeted by terrorists, do we really have a chance? Let's be clear, the metal detector doesn't work.
Rajdeep, put your hand on your heart and tell me, with lakhs of people commuting every day through this terminus, do you think it is humanly possible to check each and every person? It isn't. Does that mean we don't secure that station? Of course not. We have much better surveillance systems in place. We have much better technology in place now than we did earlier. And this experience that you have of placing an odd bag somewhere, going unnoticed, I can tell you anywhere in the world, at any crowded place or any crowded station, you'd be able to do this. The question is, have we hardened our target? Can we identify the lady who has done it afterwards, and so on and so forth? We have upgraded ourselves. But, with due respect to the investigation conducted by Headlines Today, I think it doesn't tell the entire picture.
You're saying it doesn't tell the entire picture. To my mind, what you're also at one level admitting, while you're saying you're better off, you're admitting there that there are limitations. Lakhs of people, lakhs of commuters go through Victoria Terminus Station, and you're virtually saying, look, there's only so much we can do and no more, right?
Well, you can look at it as an admission, Rajdeep, but actually it is a reality. There are lakhs of people going through. It is physically impossible to check each and every one of them. So we have to bring in better technology and better surveillance system, profiling and so on and so forth, which we are doing. It isn't so obvious and so overt as, perhaps that it is noticed by all and sundry, but covertly, behind the scenes and using better technology, there is a lot of things going on, I can assure you.
You know, you keep, and it's your, of course, it's good that the anti-terrorist squad head is trying to give a positive spin to it. Before I come to my other guests, I just want to know, the coastal police station of Mumbai Police functions with as little as 34% of the sanctioned manpower. The city's coast, with 66 identified landing points, remains vulnerable. Are you willing to again cross your heart and say that you are in a position to protect this vast coastline? That if the terrorists again came by the sea, came by a coastline, that the Mumbai police was in a position to protect the city?
You know, honestly, as far as coastal security is concerned, I think this is an area where there are gaps. Mr. Swami is on the show and he's much more of an expert on this than others are. But I can tell you that coastal security is not so simple. It requires coordination between the police, the marine police, the Coast Guard and the Navy. It isn't, and there are structural issues involved in policing the shores. This is a process which is going on. We are reiterating it. We are getting better and better. We're ratcheting it up. And there are issues relating to coastal security. I readily admit that, but we're dealing with them.
You know, there are issues, therefore, with coastal security. There are issues when it comes to places like the Victoria Terminus Station where lakhs of commuters go daily. But Praveen, respond to that. Is Himanshu Roy trying to give a positive spin to a difficult situation, that cities like Mumbai remain vulnerable? You did a series which showed that the coastal security, for example, still hasn't reached the standard anywhere close to international standards when it comes to combating, let's say, someone who wants to come by the sea to stage another 26/11 attack.
The Maharashtra police has done an amazing job over the last 6 years, and now underline the next part of this sentence, given the resources it has. Now, given the resources it has is key, because almost nothing both the state and central government said they would give the police has been given in quite that way over the last 6 years. If you look at these gaps in...
Give me examples. Give me examples of things
Let me talk you through the list.
Maharashtra police has not been given 6 years later.
Let me talk you off the list. Half their boats today, which were meant to patrol Mumbai, are non-functional because the government has this bizarre system for tendering for spare parts. The Maharashtra Director General of Police can't buy spare parts. So it goes off into the bureaucracy and things are out of control for 9 months or longer. The police hasn't got enough bulletproof vehicles. It's still short of its sanctioned strength of manpower, and that's not even counting in training. So you're supposed to have these marine police guys who effectively, in the course of training with ad hoc with the Coast Guard, because they haven't got their own academy in place yet, go off and get some rudimentary training. Most of them can't swim. They got all these fancy patrol boats where there's nowhere to properly sleep in the course of long patrols. There's nowhere, for God's sake, to go to the toilet. The engines keep conking off because they're these fancy American-made engines that are conk off in our waters. The whole thing was done in a rush without any planning. And today the police forces across the country, not just Maharashtra, don't have the financial authority to do things right. Chief Minister Fadnavis apparently said a couple of weeks ago that he intends to do something about this.
But I heard that from Prithviraj Chavan 5 years ago. When Prithviraj Chavan said, I'm going to bring in... Is it a question of lack of resources? Is it a question of lack of political will? Let's be clear. If 26/11 has not woken us up to these issues that you're citing today on the program, then nothing ever will.
Every politician comes into power looking to show that they've done something good. So there's a terror attack, you buy some fancy guns, you buy some nice toys, you say, look, I've done this, and then hope it won't happen again till the next guy comes to power. And then very sadly, the next guy comes to power and the same process goes on and on and on. Sadly, bound by their commitments in uniform, our police forces mostly can't talk about this stuff, but they're understaffed, they're undertrained, they're underfunded, and until you fix this, nothing's going to happen.
Do they have the kind of bulletproof vest that they need?
No, they're short of bulletproof vests. Very little has come in the last 3 years. And they're short of training. An average Mumbai constable gets to fire 30 rounds once a year, and that too not on the same weapon year after year. 30 rounds, anybody compare that with the police force anywhere in the world, they will fire thousands of rounds a year. The reason they can't do that is, you know the answer, lack of money. Force 1, which is this elite unit set up 6 years ago after that terrible tragedy, doesn't have a dedicated campus of their own. They've been given a plot of land in Goregaon, which they can't use because lots of it is occupied by squatters, and there's interminable litigation. The Mumbai police doesn't get to train with AK-47s anymore because local people have complained that the bullets make too much noise and the occasional errant bullet ends up in the colony. So there's nowhere for them to train. It's just a mind-boggling mess.
Himanshu Roy, unlike you, who has constraints as a police officer, Praveen doesn't have those constraints. But I'm just putting out a few of those facts. If bulletproof vests are not at the level that they are needed, or many of the police constables don't have those vests, if the average police constable, according to Praveen, in Mumbai is firing only 30 rounds, while across the world they fire hundreds and thousands of rounds, what's going wrong? Is there a resource crunch? As the head of the anti-terrorist squad, are you facing today a resource crunch?
Rajdeep, it isn't my station to question the government of the day, obviously.
But are these facts true?
Or policy issues.
Are the facts that Praveen has stated in this program true? That only 30 rounds on an average are fired by Mumbai's constables? That the bulletproof vests that were talked about 6 years ago are still not with you and with the anti-terrorism squad? The kind of bulletproof vest you need?
Mr. Praveen Swami is a scholar, and what he has said today is by and large true. Obviously, he has studied his facts. He's abreast of what is going on. There is a resource crunch, but we are good soldiers. A good army officer does not question what he has, the equipment he has, the weapons he has. A good carpenter does not blame his tools. So we do with what we have. We pick up the weapons we have, we use the equipment we have, and we go out there and fight. What is important is that we have resolve. We have even better resolve than we did earlier. We have training and we are working on it, and we are determined to fight this menace, and we will do that.
I hope there's someone out there, someone in our government listening to what Himanshu Roy is saying, what Praveen Swami is saying, is someone waking up. What about those Mumbaikars who said enough is enough, went on candlelight vigils when 26/11 occurred? Vikram Mansukhani, as a survivor, as someone who was there when this attack took place in those hotels, please tell us, what do you think when you hear Himanshu Roy saying, look, we are trying our best, we have resolved even if we don't have the equipment. Praveen Swami giving details of how the Mumbai police is still under-equipped when it comes to fighting terror. Are you still angry? Where has all that anger gone?
The anger was always going to be impotent eventually. Mr. Roy is a very well-meaning, articulate gentleman, and as Mr. Swami pointed out, a person who is without the resource, doing a fantastic job given the resources he has. But of course, he is beholden to the state and the center in terms of the resources he's provided. 26/11 is no longer the horrific attack it used to be. It needs to be put in context that it happened in 2008, which is almost 6 years ago now. 26/11 is an industry for politicians to have gamesmanship, to score political points and try and also win elections on the basis of talking about the attack rather than doing anything about it. Mr. Swami pointed out the huge limitations of Mumbai in terms of marine security, in terms of the fact that the cops don't have the equipment or the ammunition. Right. It's fairly clear that at this point we are in a situation where we're really left to our own resources. In fact, for Mr. Roy, perhaps it's the spirit of Mumbai which makes one of the biggest differences. In tackling. We have to take our own chances. The best answer that perhaps Mr. Roy should provide is that we don't know what is going to happen. How is Mumbai going to deal with an attack like this in the future? We just simply don't know.
You're saying we have to take our own chances. What worries me is that effectively means that even after all these years, we are still living, some would say, in a Ram Bharose culture. That Mumbai, the city which suffered, is still hoping against hope that things will change at the moment. Himanshu Roy, I'm coming back to you because J.K. Dutt of the former NSG chief is also joining us at this moment. But first, Himanshu Roy, you heard what Mr. Mansukhani said. Do you get a sense that, you know, the police can only do so much and no more? That at the end of the day, if in this program I'm lamenting that we haven't learned the lessons, who do I blame? Do I blame Himanshu Roy and the police, or do I end up blaming the political class? Is it that the politicians have not realized just how serious the battle against terror is? There is still no concept of creating a terror-proof society.
Rajdeep, I am also a Mumbaikar first, in fact, as you are, or at least used to be. I share the sentiments and the emotions of Mr. Mansukhani. It feels terrible. It's an emotive wound for all of us. But negativity is certainly not going to help our cause. And whereas I can appreciate the anger, it isn't always possible for us to talk about everything we do. This is not something, our preparation, our training, our resolve, our intelligence sharing, our new SOPs, everything that we are doing, it's not always possible to bring it into the public glare and have it examined and analyzed. Much of what we do must be kept under wraps for obvious reasons. I would just like to take this opportunity on this program to assure Mumbaikars and all citizens out here that have some faith. I mean, it isn't about blame. If you must blame somebody, blame us, because we are here to do the job and we must take the rap.
No, I don't want you to take the rap. Why should you take the rap if our political class has not woken up to the challenge of terrorism, is not providing you with the resources? I appreciate that you are taking the rap. It's courageous of you to take that rap, but I'm going to blame the political class, since unlike you, I can get away by doing that. And I've got JK Dutt on the program. Mr. Dutt, appreciate your joining us. You got caught in a traffic jam in Delhi. Very much. But I just want to know this. You were there in the NSG 6 years ago. Praveen Swami today on this program has detailed all the gaps. Our stories that we've done have detailed all the gaps that exist. Do you get a sense that, since you're a retired officer, you can be more direct, do you get a sense that the political class has still not understood the magnitude of the challenge that is posed by terror? You know, you had the Lashkar-e-Toiba, then today you've got ISIS. I mean, do you believe that we have not understood the magnitude of the challenge, the sophistication with which terrorists can now operate, and that we are still behind times? Are you going to blame the political class? Should they be taking the blame for the lack of resources that Praveen talks about on this program?
Well, let me put it like this, that whenever a crisis occurs, then everyone starts scampering around and the security forces are able to get what they want. But the equipment comes, but then maybe the manpower is not there to handle it. But
I've given figures, statistics. Only 34% of the sanctioned manpower is there for the coastal police stations of Mumbai.
Exactly. But having said that, you see, even when the equipment has been brought, one must remember the special forces have their own techniques and tactics. And for that, they need to be up to date with their equipment. In fact, this is something which requires a fast track procurement of equipment. That doesn't happen. You see, there is no
Why
point.
doesn't it happen? Is it bureaucracy? Is it the bureaucracy?
Because of the procedures. Because of the procedures, yes. Because
but surely the procedure should have been fast-tracked after 26/11. Are we still living 6 years?
Yes, in fact, when I was in the NSG, I had sent a proposal that all these equipment which we purchase for the NSG, they need to be fast-tracked. Because unless that is done, you see, you can't go in, unfortunately, unlike other foreign countries where things are available over the counter. If we want to buy even one pistol, we have to first get samples from all over the world. It's not that you go to an arms shop and say, all right, show me what you have, and he'll probably only be able to show you one weapon which is made in India, which is not meeting the requirements of the force. So first you have to collect all this. So you have to get an import license, you have to get the weapon, you have to test it, then another weapon comes in, another weapon comes in, and this is a very long drawn thing.
And nothing has changed in the 6 years? Will it take as long as it did 6 years ago for procurement of these weapons?
6 years now, 5 years I've been out of service. I only hope that procedures have been put on fast track.
Fast track?
Mumbai, how many times have you heard this promise to get CCTV surveillance for the whole of Mumbai?
The CCTV project is yet to be implemented.
4 times it's been tendered. 4 times the tenders have been opened. Each time it's gone. how many times have you heard about the promise to get, a modern control room in Mumbai? Well, the building's being built. People complain that there are 15-minute waits for their calls to be heard. Not surprising.
Even today.
Because the building's been built, let alone put anything inside it. There's project after project after project that's been stalled on some bureaucratic muscle. Let me tell you something. So these wonderful boats the union government bought, these speed boats, they have these fabulous seats in them, and each seat costs 1,30,000 rupees. The Director General of Police, if that seat falls off, can't buy a seat to put over there because it's beyond his personal powers to buy that 1 lakh seat. So it has to go do the rounds of a Mantralaya or Secretariat for 6 months or a year before somebody will put a damn seat in this boat.
I'll add to that. There's another very interesting thing. We had been given ladders for the anti-hijacking force way back in 1984 when the force was formed. And after that, these hijacking ladders were being repaired again and again. And for 17, 18 years, we have been trying to get these through global tenders. When I was the DG at that time, we again floated a tender and we got the bids. Again, now what happened was the model had changed abroad. Instead of having round rungs on the ladder, they had square rungs. So I said, go ahead, I take the responsibility, we'll go in for these square rung, because they said the foot does not slip, the rung does not rotate in the grooves. So I said, it's good, let's buy these. No, because we had bid for something different, we could now not go in for the square rungs.
This is the level of the bureaucracy. These are shocking details that are being provided today on the program. I hope someone is waking up. Someone is waking up in the Home Ministry. This presumably was officers, bureaucrats in the Home Ministry through which you have to go for this procurement process. So someone needs to wake up. But tell me, Himanshu, is it much better since you're a serving officer now than when Mr. Dutt, who retired 5 years ago, is giving us these cases? Is it easier for you as the head of the anti-terrorism squad to ask and demand, let's say within a few months, the kind of equipment you need?
Well, procedures have been streamlined, but Rajdeep, if the truth be told, the system sometimes goes into a defensive mode because of the chance of allegations of corruption and of mistendering and so on and so forth. That is an unfortunate part which is true of all government purchases, not just related to the security forces. So I think it is important to separate the purchase procedure for counter-terrorism operations for the armed forces and so on and so forth, fast-track them and have them on a different footing. That's something you do for other government departments. Having said that, this is something that we are pursuing, it is something we are following up, and I'm sure it will see the light of day. Now, coming to something which was said about the Mumbai Police Control Room, I'm glad to inform your viewers that we have the building in place. It is completely ready, and I think just maybe a couple of months down the road we'll have a fully functional new control room and people will not have to wait for their calls to be taken.
What about your CCTV program? The CCTV program that was to be implemented for the entire city?